Good afternoon, class. Am I audible? Clearly audible? Screen is visible? Okay. So let us start with the today's class. So in the last lecture, we started with the seventh chapter in the syllabus. So seventh chapter is a concurrency control chapter. So where we are learning how to achieve the isolation using allowing for a multiple access of a same database. So here concurrency control, it means that number of users are trying to access a database at the same point of time where they may be accessing the same data, that is a shared data we are accessing. So here we have seen a concurrency control manager is responsible for performing this concurrency control, where allowing of simultaneous access by multiple users also keeps database into a consistent state and also achieve a isolation. So achieving the isolation, it means that at a point of time only single transaction accesses a data member. A same data member is accessed by a transaction is always isolated from the other transactions, and if they are having multiple common data items, then these are accessed in mutually exclusive way. So here there are two ways to achieve this. So we started with the first way, that is a locking protocols. Locking protocols, it means that this is a mechanism through which multiple transactions can request for access of data item by achieving which type of lock they wanted to have. So there are two types of the locks are there: shared lock and exclusive lock. Shared lock, it means that transaction is willing to perform only read operation on the data item, and exclusive lock, it means that that transaction is willing to perform a write operation also by using a exclusive lock. So simultaneously, multiple transactions can access a data member in shared mode, but whenever either of the transaction is accessing a data member in exclusive mode, no other transaction is allowed to use or access that data item. So here we see a compatibility matrix. So that matrix is responsible wherever a request by transaction can be granted. So this matrix we have seen. So whenever shared lock is available, shared request can be granted. That is true. And whenever a data item is locked into shared mode, no other, it means exclusive lock can be granted. And if transaction is already having a exclusive lock on a data item, no, neither exclusive request can be granted. So this was what the lock compatibility matrix. So on the basis of this, the lock manager will decide whether to allow the given or grant the given lock or not. So here, this table we have seen, wherever a transaction is willing to use a data item, how this can send a request, how the control manager will assign the lock, and how they can access the elements in exclusive mode. That is mutually exclusive. Next, we have seen a concept of deadlock. So deadlock, it means that wherever there is a circular waiting for a data item is there, or a request for a access of data item is there, in such situation we are calling this as a deadlock. So whenever there is a circular weightage between the transactions for locks, then deadlock occurs. And in order to come handle the situation of deadlock, we are selecting either the transaction and roll back in that transaction. So because of this, there can be two problems. That is, there can be starvation in two ways. That is, first one is that we are choosing the same transaction for multiple times for coming out of the deadlock. That is, a starvation can be there. Or wherever there is shared lock is there, if sequence of transactions are sending the request for a shared lock, because of which a transaction which is willing to have an exclusive lock on a data item may suffer a starvation. So again, there is a rotation is allowed where that is exclusive lock also can be granted. So in the locking mechanisms, we started with the two-phase locking protocol. Two-phase, it means that the execution of the transaction takes place in two phases. The first phase is a phase of acquiring the locks on our data items, and second phase is a phase of unlocking the locks on an item. So here, whenever first phase is called as a growing phase, where locks are acquired. So during this period, only lock requests are sent. No unlock requests are initiated. And in case of shrinking phase, only unlocking request can be started. No lock request can be sent to the lock manager. So that's why this protocol is called as a two-phase commit protocol. There are two variations of two-phase commit protocol: strict two-phase and rigorous two-phase. Strict two-phase, exclusive lock need to unlock the data items at the end of the transaction. And in case of rigorous two-phase, read be shared or exclusive mode, these locks on data item need to be held up to the commit or abort statement. So out of this, most widely rigorous two-phase locking is used, which is also called as a basic mode of a two-phase locking because of wide use of that. So this we have seen. So again, we have seen concurrency, that is a schedule. Wherever such protocols are there, that is two-phase and growing and shrinking phase. Within that, achieving the concurrency can be a problem. So here we have seen an example wherever here unlock B request is sent, that is the unlock B command is executed, and here lock X of A is executed. So here a two phase, it means that either we have only the growing phase or shrinking phase. Having unlock statement in the start, it means that we are starting with the shrinking phase, and during the shrinking phase lock requests are not allowed. So it means that scheduling this concurrent transactions or concurrent event into a transaction with two phase, that can be a problem. So this condition we have seen into the last lecture. So for this purpose, always we should have all the lock requests at the start of the transaction, that is before unlocking either of a single data item, and then we can start with the unlocking and allowing those locks to be acquired by the another transaction. So here it means that we cannot achieve a conflict serializability from a locking mechanism. That is the only conclusion which we wanted to withdraw from this. So this was a revision about the previous contents which we have seen. So now let us start with the next point. So lock conversion. So any doubt in up to in the revision or any point still you wanted to repeat me? Whether my voice is clearly audible to you? Any other point you want to repeat me? No response? At least reply that my voice is clearly audible to you. If so, then let us proceed with the next point in the lecture. Yes, I'm clearly audible to all. So now let us start with the lecture. That is new point. Lock conversions. Lock conversions, it means that we know that there are two types of the locks on a data item can be there. That is a shared lock and exclusive lock. So it might happen that previously I have obtained some another lock, and incompatible to that, a transaction is willing to perform some other operation. So here it means that we are changing the lock type from the lock request sent. Let us see what is mean by this. So here there are two phases, growing and shrinking. So in the growing phase, in case of lock conversion, we can acquire a shared lock on data item and we can acquire exclusive lock on data item. Okay, so this is a growing phase, that is normal growing phase, that we can acquire a lock on data item. Along with that, there is also one more possibility can be there, that previously we have obtained a shared lock on data item, and it means initially we wanted to perform only read operation, and now we feel that during the transaction we should have a data item in write mode also. Okay, it means that here we are willing to perform some changes to the data item. So for performing some changes, we need to acquire a exclusive lock on that data item. But already we have acquired a shared lock on the data item. So in that case, we can go for changing or converting a lock type. For example, if previously shared lock was there, now we can shift to from shared to the exclusive lock type. Okay, so as exclusive lock is much more restrictive than the shared, this type of lock conversion is called as an upgrade lock conversion. That is, upgrade, it means that from shared lock to the exclusive lock we are moving. So this possibility also can be added to the growing phase. So right now we are talking about the lock conversions. So we know that shared, it means that we are performing read operation on data item. Exclusive lock, it means that we can perform read write both operations on a data item. But whenever we are converting a shared lock data member to exclusive lock data member, it means that we are upgrading the lock. Okay, shared mode is less restrictive, exclusive is much more stricter than the shared, and that's why this type of lock conversion is called as an upgrade lock conversion. So this is the also possibility added to the growing phase. Next one is a shrinking phase. Shrinking phase, we know that we are releasing the locks or unlocking the data items. So whatever locks already available, that is shared, exclusive, we can release those locks. And if consider there is already exclusive lock available on a data item, and later on we are willing to perform some read operation on that data item, then we can downgrade the lock exclusive on a data item to the shared mode. Okay, so here it means that this guarantees that we can achieve a serializability. So wherever we are performing downgrade, there releasing or allowing other transactions to reading of the data item can be allowed, and hence because of this a much more serializability can be achieved by this. Okay, so and it means this ensures that serializability can be there. So clear with lock conversion, upgrade and downgrade. So next one is automatic acquisition of the locks. Presentation mode is visible. So automatic acquisition of the locks, it means that previously a data item may be locked or unlocked. So how we can perform acquisition of the lock of desire. So first, consider that a transaction TI issues a read-write instruction without explicit locking calls. It means here we had not had any lock request to the concurrency control manager, that is which is responsible for granting the locks. to that yet we had not sent any lock request. Okay, so explicit it means that we are intentionally writing some statements for unlocking a data item. So during this period, if consider a transaction Ti is willing to perform read operation, that is wanted to read any data item from a database, that is consider that we are accessing a data item D. So in this case, so this will check if TI has any lock on D. Okay, wherever there is an operation, read D operation is there. So during this period, this automatic acquisition of the lock mechanism will check whether there is any existing lock available by TI on a D. Okay, either it can be shared, it can be exclusive, or there might be possibility that there is transaction TI does not have any lock on data item D. So if consider right now we are considering that there is a lock available on a D, let it be exclusive or let it be shared. In both cases, we can go for a read D operation. Okay, so the first possibility is that the lock is available on D, and hence whatever read D operation is there, we can perform without any problem. Next, else we can start. It means wherever if there is no lock on D by TI, then it will check whether any other transaction is having a lock available on a D. Okay, so if consider another transaction TJ is there. Okay, so here we are willing to perform read operation on D. It means that we are willing to acquire a shared lock on D, and hence this automatic acquisition will check whether there is any existing lock available on D by the same transaction. If no, if lock is available, it will go for the read operation. If no, this will check whether any other transaction is having a lock on D. If so, consider that that transaction is TJ. We'll check whether whatever the current lock available by TJ is there, this is compatible with the new request. That is, TI wanted to have a lock in shared mode, and TJ is also having a lock in shared mode. So shared, in this case, we can grant the request. So if it is compatible, then this will allow the request, and hence we can perform with the read D operation. The first possibility is over. Next, if TJ is having an exclusive lock on D. So during the exclusive lock, no other transaction can perform, that is a reading or writing of the data item, as exclusive lock is not compatible neither with the shared, neither with the exclusive. So in that case, it will wait until this lock has been released. Okay, until a D is available to uh, D is available to unlock the, that is D is available for locking in shared mode. So it will wait for that period, and then it will grant the TI, that is shared mode lock on D, and then it will perform a read D operation. So okay, this is how this automatic acquisition of the lock in case of shared mode is done. Clear? Next, this is previously case was regarding a read D operation. Now we are willing to perform write D operation. Then how automatic acquisition of the locks proceeds? So here also this will check whether the same transaction, that is TI has exclusive lock on D. Exclusive lock, it means that not shared, but this is checking whether exclusive existing lock is available on D. If it is available, this will continue with the write D operation. Else, this will begin with the checking if there is need to wait to put or upgrade the lock from shared mode to exclusive mode. So there can be three possibilities: that transaction TI is having exclusive lock on D, transaction TI is having shared lock on D, and there is no lock available on D by TI. Okay, if exclusive lock is available, directly it will proceed with the writing of data item. If it is available in shared mode, so this will check whether it is possible to upgrade from shared to the exclusive. If it is possible, it means that simultaneously no other transaction should be accessing the same data item. Okay, no other transaction just like TJ etc. is having a shared lock on that data item. If so, this will wait until it can be upgraded to shared lock to the exclusive lock. Then, after upgrading the lock, this can perform the write D operation. Okay, second possibility also over. And the third possibility is regarding that transaction TI does not have any lock on D. So in that case, this will check whether a concurrency control manager can grant the exclusive lock request. So again, there can be two possibilities that other transaction is having some shared lock or other transaction is having exclusive lock. Wait up to that period, and as soon as the data item gets free, then we can acquire a exclusive lock on data item and can proceed with the write D operation. So here difference between our normal procedure and this procedure is that here automatic locks are, that is explicit writing lock the item X, lock item D on X, that need not to write as a part of our transaction. Okay, so this is automatically done by automatic acquisition of the locks. Clear with this? I expect you to read this slide for a minute and previous slide also. So first let us read the previous. So first read this slide and then we'll go for reading the next slide. Take a minute only. Done. Now let us move to the next point. So here, all the locks are released after commit or abort. As we are right now basic two-phase, it means that we are considering the rigorous two-phase locking protocol. Now next, implementation of locking. So here we know that concurrency control manager is responsible for assigning all the requests. So here concurrency control manager is also maintaining a track. It means here there are number of subtasks are available in a concurrency control manager, and hence for implementation of a locking, it means lock manager is implemented as a separate procedure or separate process. Lock manager, this is responsible for accepting the request from multiple transactions to check that which data item they are requesting, which type of the locks are available, whether any existing lock is available, etc. So for this purpose, lock manager always use a data structure called lock table. Okay, LOCK, lock table. So lock table is a data structure, that is a in-memory data structure, which is responsible for holding that existing locks or which requests are there for any of the data items, how to maintain those requests that transactions may keep waiting. For that purpose, we need to keep a track that which transactions has requested the lock earlier. Those earlier locks need to be granted with the request before any other who can live. Okay, so here for this purpose, always that is lock manager, this procedure or this process is responsible. So all the lock requests are accepted by this lock manager. So this is maintaining the track that when transaction has sent the lock request, when transaction has executed the unlock request, okay, and whenever there is a deadlock, which transaction to be chosen for a rollback. In the rollback, whenever there is a rollback, whatever the data items pulled by that transaction is there, all those need to be released. So this track is maintained by this lock manager. So let us see, it means how the lock manager handles this. A lock manager, can be implemented as a separate process. Transactions can send lock and unlock request as a messages to the lock manager. Next, the lock manager replies to a lock request by sending a lock grant messages. Okay, so here, whenever the communication between a transaction and lock manager is that, here whenever transaction sends a lock request, it is mandatory for lock manager to reply to that messages. Okay, so there can be two ways that lock request can be granted immediately, or a transaction should wait until it processes or replies to that grant request. So here processes, it means whenever there is any transaction is chosen for the rollback, in that case, it may ask to the rollback a transaction. Okay, so a lock manager replies to a lock request by sending a lock grant message. So grant message is acknowledgement for acquiring the lock on the data item by transaction, and or message asking the transaction to roll back in case of deadlock. So deadlock, so this will keep our system in the lock state. So to handle that situation, always a transaction is chosen as a victim and that transaction is rolled back. And for this purpose, if any other such scenario is found, then concurrent lock manager will ask to roll back that transaction. So here, the requesting transaction waits until its request is answered. So whenever a request is sent for the locking, so that transaction must wait unless and until it receives a reply from a lock manager. Okay, and for answering those requests, the lock manager maintains an in-memory data structure called lock table to record granted locks and pending requests. So okay, this uses this data structure to handle the lock request. read this slide for a minute. Reading completed. Now let us move to the next point. So this is a structure of a log table. It means here this is just a graphical representation. So here it is shown that there is a item I7, that is this is a data member. So right now this has, it means blue rectangle represents that it has acquired a lock, granted lock request, and transaction T23 has access to this I7, and after that there is item I23 on which transaction T1 was granted a request. Later on T8 was granted a request, and this light color indicate that this is a pending request. Okay, so this is a pending request, this is a granted request, this is also a granted request, granted, pending, granted. Okay, so in the lock table all the items, data items will be there, and whatever the lock request granted will be there. As per that, this will maintain a shape. So lock table structure, dark rectangles indicate a granted locks, light colored one indicates waiting request. So this can also keep a record that which type of the lock it has granted or requested, whether it is shared or exclusive. In current figure, we don't have this provision, but lock manager, that is lock table, maintains this information. Next, whenever any new request is added, so this will be added at the end of the queue for a data item and granted if it is compatible with all earlier locks. Okay, so if right now consider TA2 is having a shared lock, sorry, T1 is having a shared lock and T8 requested for a shared lock. Then in that case, T8 will be granted a request because here this lock can be granted currently compatible, and hence T1 and T8 both requests will be granted, and T2 come with the exclusive lock. Then that will be kept as a waiting. So here, two transactions are granted request. It means that right now these are accessing the same data item in a shared mode. Okay. Next, unlock request result in a request being deleted. That is, uh, if right now consider T1 has seen the unlock request, then only T8 will be in a dark blue color, and then T1 will be deleted from this structure. It means there will be only two transactions, T8 and T2. Next, if a transaction aborts, that is all waiting or granted request of the transaction are deleted. So consider that here we have a termination or abort of a T1 transaction. Okay, T1 transaction, it means that this right now, whatever here a data item hold by the TI is there, this block will be deleted, as indicating that this lock will be unlocked, and hence this is rollbacking. That is whatever the locks request previously allowed were there, that will be removed. Hence here T1 is also having a lock on this data item, that will be also removed, that is lock will be removed, and hence the request will be granted for the T23. And if consider at this point T1 is waiting for some lock on this data item. So in that case, this request will be also removed from a complete table. So this is how it performs. It handles the request. That is, if a transaction aborts, all waiting or granted request of a transaction are deleted. Next, lock manager may keep a list of locks held by each transaction to implement this efficiently. So, okay, this will keep the track that which transaction has requested which lock, etc. Read this slide for a minute. Next, graph-based protocol. So this is a lengthier point which we cannot cover in 5 minutes. So let us revise what we have studied today. So today we have seen only lock conversion. That is how we can convert from shared lock to the exclusive lock. And how we can convert from exclusive lock to the shared lock. So here upgrading it means that this can be achieved in a growing phase. Downgrade is possible in shrinking phase. So this protocol ensures serializability. Next, automatic acquisition of the locks. Automatic acquisition of the lock means that here, even though we are not writing exclusive lock on a data item, still we can implement a locking mechanism wherever there is a automatic locks are acquired on a data item. So this is going to check whether existing locks are available. On the basis of that, it is decided to proceed with the operation. If not, then this will send request to the lock manager or concurrency control manager, and then it will check for the compatibility, and then on that basis, a lock request, it will wait for a request to be granted. So this is here we are not writing any exclusive lock statements. So this is a main point in acquisition of the automatic acquisition of the lock. So this is regarding the read operation. This is regarding the write operation. Next, we have implemented how the lock manager implements this locking protocol by using lock table. And then we have seen a figure indicating how this lock requests are maintained by a lock manager. So any doubt in the today's lecture? Any doubt in the today's lecture?